Just moments after takeoff from London's Heathrow, something went terribly wrong on a British Airways Airbus A319. Within seconds, both engines began to fail, sending passengers into a panic. Fluid streaked from the exposed engines as terrifying warning lights flashed in the cockpit. With time running out, the pilots made the split-second decision to turn back to the airport. But would they make it in time? This is the story of British Airways Flight 762. A routine morning turned into a nightmare. It was a typical morning at London Heathrow Airport on May 24, 2013. The crew of British Airways Flight 762 was preparing for a routine flight to Oslo, Norway. The aircraft, an Airbus A319, was 11 years old, and the crew had no idea that the day's journey would become one of the most terrifying experiences of their careers. The captain, a seasoned 50-year-old pilot with over 12,000 flight hours, had been with British Airways his entire career. The first officer, just 33 years old, had over 5,000 hours of flying experience. They were experienced, professional, and ready for the day ahead. Before takeoff, they thoroughly checked the plane systems and found no major issues. The aircraft appeared ready for the 2-hour flight ahead, but hidden in plain sight was a critical problem, one that would soon reveal itself in a catastrophic way. A fault lurking right under their nose. Before each flight, one of the pilots performs a walk-around inspection, checking the plane's exterior for any visible issues. On this morning, the first officer conducted the walk-around, but he missed a glaring problem. The engine covers on both engines were not fully secured. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, the captain set up the aircraft's flight systems, unaware that a potential disaster was unfolding just beneath them. The Airbus A319 was equipped with advanced fly-by-wire controls, a technological marvel that replaced mechanical systems with electrical wiring. It was cutting edge, but, as the tragic Air France 447 disaster in 2009 had shown, advanced technology could sometimes complicate matters in critical situations. With everything seemingly in order, the crew began taxiing for takeoff. Passengers boarded, the plane was fueled, and at 8:00 a.m., Flight 762 was cleared for departure. Takeoff and an immediate catastrophe as the aircraft accelerated down the runway. Everything seemed normal until, within seconds, passengers seated by the windows saw the horrifying sight of the engine cowling doors flying open. The force of the air as the plane sped down the runway ripped the engine covers off entirely, sending them crashing onto the runway. The pilots, unaware of the catastrophic damage behind them, continued the takeoff. But as soon as the aircraft was airborne, chaos began to unfold. The exposed engines sent jets of fluid streaking across the sky, and the flight attendants rushed to assess the situation as panic spread among the passengers. On the ground, air traffic controllers were immediately alerted to the debris on the runway. The pilots of Flight 762 heard the distressing radio transmissions, but had no idea just how badly their plane was damaged. Climbing into danger at 1,100 feet, the autopilot was engaged, but almost immediately, the auto-thrust system failed. The first officer, now in control of the engines manually, was unprepared for the challenge. What was happening to their plane? Why wasn't it performing as it should? In the cockpit, things were rapidly falling apart. Multiple warning messages flashed across the aircraft screens. The pilots realized the plane's hydraulic system had been compromised. One of its 3 hydraulic systems had completely failed. Without it, they lost control over critical flight systems, including spoilers, reverse thrust, and parts of the flaps. The nightmare gets worse. Things only worsened as the aircraft climbed into the skies over London. In addition to the hydraulic failure, the plane's computers began reporting a major fuel imbalance. Fuel was rapidly leaking from the right wing tank. The first officer's worst fears were realized. The aircraft had a fuel leak, and it was losing fuel fast. Now, the pilots were faced with the terrifying decision. They needed to return to Heathrow immediately, but the right engine was dangerously close to running out of fuel. There was no time to waste. In the cabin, passengers were still unaware of the full scale of the emergency, but the situation was growing dire. Flight attendants reported that the right-hand engine appeared to be on the verge of exploding. The captain knew that an engine fire could erupt at any moment. Racing against time, the pilots worked through their checklist, trying to stabilize the aircraft. The fire risk in the right engine became more real with every passing second. The captain ordered the flight attendants to prepare the passengers for an emergency landing. The ground crew was alerted, and emergency services rushed to the runway to await their arrival. The clock was ticking. Every second counted, and with no time to lose, the pilots prepared for an emergency landing at Heathrow's parallel runway, 27 right. But just as they were coming in for their final approach, disaster struck again. A loud bang echoed through the plane. The right-hand engine had failed. Fuel continued to spill, and fire warnings lit up the cockpit. The right engine was now on fire. The captain knew they had no choice but to land immediately. There would be no second attempt. A harrowing landing gasped. The plane descended. Passengers could see the flames leaping from the right engine. The fire bell continued to ring in the cockpit, and the captain's hands were full, managing the plane's speed, while the first officer focused on lining up the plane for the runway. At 500 feet, the captain took over the controls, guiding the crippled aircraft closer to the ground. The plane touched down with a loud thud, one tire bursting from the impact. The damaged hydraulic systems meant only 6 of the 10 wing spoilers deployed, slowing the plane down. But against all odds, the aircraft came to a stop on the runway. A quick evacuation emergency crews were on the scene within seconds, rushing to the still-burning engine. The captain ordered an evacuation, and within minutes, all 75 passengers had safely exited the plane. It was a miracle everyone was alive. But how had this happened? How could one of the world's most advanced aircraft, operated by one of the safest airlines, have suffered such catastrophic damage? The cause and the lessons learned. The investigation revealed a shocking truth. The problem had been caused by a simple mistake. The night before the flight, technicians had been working on the aircraft's engines. They had forgotten to fully secure the engine fan covers, leaving them slightly ajar. When the plane was inspected that morning, neither the pilots nor the ground crew noticed the issue. It was a failure in routine procedures. The lesson? Routine checks matter more than ever. Since the incident, Airbus and British Airways have revised their pre-flight inspection procedures to prevent similar mistakes from happening again. Pilots now must check both sides of the engines to ensure the fan covers are properly secured, and the system has been updated to make the issue easier to spot. Flight 762 was a wake-up call that flying, despite its incredible safety record, is never without risk. But the lessons learned from this close call have made air travel even safer. Today, those on board British Airways Flight 762 are lucky to be alive thanks to the quick thinking of the crew, the improvements made to flight safety, and the dedication of those who work tirelessly to keep us safe in the skies. If you found this story captivating, don't forget to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe for more thrilling stories of survival in the skies. And if you want to learn more about aviation, check out these videos right here. Thanks for watching.